They were not knights, nor kings. They carried no swords, no armor, only crosses made of wood, voices trembling with hymns, and hearts full of faith. They were children. And in the year of our Lord 1212, they believed they could do what armies could not: free the Holy Land. Mist hangs over medieval hills. A lonely voice sings a hymn in Latin. On the road, empty sandals lie forgotten in mud. The story begins there, not with the roar of battle, but with the quiet steps of innocence heading into darkness. The Children's Crusade is one of the most haunting tales in Christian history, a legend of belief, betrayal, and a generation lost between faith and famine. The Crusades began in a storm of glory, but by the early 13th century, they had all but ended in ruin. Jerusalem, the sacred city, lay in Muslim hands. The Holy Land seemed further than ever. In Europe, hearts ached for redemption and souls yearned for a miracle. The shock of the Fourth Crusade fell heavily across Christendom. The great armies sacked not Jerusalem, but Constantinople, a city of fellow Christians. The papacy faced crisis, kings plotted, and ordinary people crushed by hardship turned their eyes heavenward in hope. Spiritual fervor ran like fire through villages and towns. Marketplaces filled with monks crying, "Dies vult!" Peasants wept in front of relics. Leaders begged forgiveness for crusader kings who had turned on their own. Papal bulls promised indulgence to the humble, and everywhere, preachers called for a new crusade, one not tainted by greed or pride, but by purity. The crusading ideal grew heavy with sin and confusion. When men had failed, perhaps only the innocent could succeed. 1212 was a year broken by hardship. Famine choked the land. Bad harvests left thousands dead. Bands of pilgrims wandered the roads, searching for scraps, penance, and hope. Yet faith, strained though it was, seemed only to burn brighter. In fields and villages, prophets rose, some holy, some mad, but all promising that salvation would come to those who believed. Peasant children prayed at weathered roadside crosses, their longing shaped by hunger and grief. Rumors of a new crusade swept from mouth to mouth, tales told by beggars and priests, each adding visions, miracles, and the return of Christ. The dream finally found its body in France, in a shepherd boy named Stephen from the village of Cloyes. He was 12 years old, poor, unlearned, and destined for obscurity until one summer's day, he claimed to have seen the Savior. Christ, Stephen said, had visited him under the open sky and gave him a letter for King Philip II of France, commanding a new crusade led not by lords or warriors, but by children. Villagers gathered in awe, dropping coins at the boy's feet as he preached in the dusty square. Children flocked to the banner shepherds, orphans, beggars, even sons of knights lost to the east. Mothers cried as their children left, powerless before the crowd's tidal pull. The story leapt from farmhouses to manors, from city streets to distant villages, a crusade born not in council or cathedral, but in the voice of a shepherd boy. Stephen's message was simple: "We shall walk to Jerusalem, and the sea shall open before us." Those words, echoing like prophecy, galvanized thousands, some say as many as 30,000, though no one can know for sure. Children with rough-hewn crosses in hand marched through fields, faith lighting every step. As their story grew, a parallel movement began in the German-speaking lands across the Rhine. Nicholas of Cologne was no king, and only slightly older than Stephen. He claimed God, or perhaps an angel, called him to lead a crusade, not just of children, but of all those who were innocent. The streets of Cologne filled with children, priests, widows, and vagabonds. Nicholas' followers called themselves the Army of the Innocents, and their processions wound through the city's great cathedral. From the Alps to the Rhineland, towns emptied of the young and desperate. Some estimates place their numbers at 20,000 or even higher. These two crusades, French and German, began as miracles to some, madness to others. Europe watched as rivers of faith won from the fields of France, one from the valleys of the Rhine flowed south toward the Mediterranean. The journey was merciless. Summer turned to autumn, and the songs became cries for help. Children found themselves walking deeper into hunger, far from home, often with nothing but faith, a faith beginning to crack under starvation and exhaustion. Many died along the way, their bodies left at the edge of forests, at lonely crossroads. Some children sold themselves for bread, others fell to wolves that circled stragglers with cold patience. Most kept marching, believing that Jerusalem waited, that the power of God would see them through. Every step was a prayer. Every death, a confession. Hope became ritual. Records speak of village after village, emptied of their young. Fewer adults joined, but some priests and wandering women tagged along, certain that salvation for Christendom could only come through the pure. The children earned pity, suspicion, and sometimes fear. Did this movement come from heaven, or from madness born of famine and despair? After months of hardship, those who survived finally glimpsed the Sea Marseillais, and then Genoa. It shined blue and infinite under the autumn sun. To these children, many of whom had never seen the ocean, it was a holy sight. They fell on their knees, singing psalms, expecting the water to part before them, hoping that ships of angels would appear. But the sea was silent. Desperation set in. Some refused to leave the shore. Others begged for ships from merchants milling about the quays. Two men, Hugh the Iron and William the Pig, offered their ships free passage to the Holy Land. The children boarded, singing psalms, confident that miracles awaited. But the ships never reached Jerusalem. A terrible storm struck, scattering the fleet. Years later, rumors swirled. Some ships broke on rocky coasts near Sardinia. Most say the ships sailed to North Africa, where the children were sold into slavery in Alexandria and Tunis. The Mediterranean did not part for innocence, it swallowed it whole. Nicholas's German crusade met a similar fate. His followers struggled over the Alps, crossing passes battered by cold wind and cruel snow. Starvation decimated their ranks. Many turned back toward home, but those who pressed southward arrived in Genoa, then Pisa. Here too they waited for the sea to part. It never did. The chronicles, often written decades later, speak of betrayal. Merchants became slavers. Children vanished from sealed holds of ships, never to return. A few who escaped lived out new lives swallowed by foreign lands and forgotten languages. Some lived, but broken, far from home, in agony over dreams that had died in salt and tears. The story blazed through Europe first as a tale of miracle and faith, then as legend, and finally as tragedy. In the aftermath, priests preached caution, parents grieved, and Europe recoiled from its own zeal. The Children's Crusade became a warning. Blind faith, even when born of innocence, can be devoured by greed or simply by indifference. These thousands of children were exploited and destroyed by a world that either saw their march as a miracle or as an occasion for profit. Stories circulated of children being sold into brothels, chained in markets of Tunis or Alexandria, or washed up as bones on lonely islands. The price of innocence is always highest when faith and famine walk side by side. Yet the meaning of the Children's Crusade was never simple. Historians have debated it for centuries. Were they truly all children? Modern research suggests more young peasants, laborers, a desperate poor, and not just literal children. Papal letters call them pueri, but also the humble, the downtrodden. Some chroniclers romanticized the movement. Others moralized it, shaping the legend to fit warnings or lamentations. The story blurred into myth because myth alone could absorb the scale of sorrow. But the truth endures. Thousands set out with nothing but faith, and most vanished. Illuminated manuscripts fade, ink dissolves on maps, but in the folds of history, hope and tragedy mingle. Stained glass and empty cathedrals shows golden-haired boys with eyes turned to heaven, empty roads trailing off into mist. The Children's Crusade is remembered not for glory, but for sorrow, a parable of faith and folly. It was exploited by religious fanatics and ruthless merchants alike. It revealed the human need to seek salvation through sacrifice, and the dangers of faith untethered from wisdom. They sought Jerusalem with bare feet and clean hearts, and found only chains. What haunts most is not the loss, but the questions left behind. Did their prayers matter? Could innocence ever redeem a world so used to blood and dust? The Children's Crusade stands as an enduring echo, a lament for purity devoured by reality. As the centuries passed, poets and preachers returned to their story, each bending it to a new meaning. Some saw the Children's Crusade as proof of humanity's desire to reach for God, even if the result is only pain. Others warned against the manipulation of innocence, shouting against the powers that send the vulnerable to war. The memory divides itself between those who mourn and those who draw lessons. And so, the fields where they slept are silent, the roads where they marched now lost beneath new towns and new griefs. But every prayer, every hope, every sandal left in the dust remains a testament to a faith so fierce it believed the impossible. In the end, the Mediterranean still rolls gentle waves over the sand. There, empty sandals lie as relics, untouched by time. Gentle sunlight touches the sea. Perhaps the children's crusade never reached Jerusalem. Perhaps, in their innocence, they found a holier city, not of men, but within the heart of God. Today, echoes of the children's crusade resound in every story where faith battles against fate, where innocence is called to answer questions bigger than its strength. Their suffering asks more than any historian can. Is it enough to believe? Can purity change a violent world, or does it only reveal its wounds? The wind sings over hills once walked by the lost generation, a song mixed of hope and mourning. The world may have forgotten their names, but not their lesson. The cost of innocence when dreams turn dark and the impossible, just for a moment, seems close enough to touch. They were not forgotten, only transformed into a song in the wind, a warning and a hope, echoing through centuries as an enduring question. Can purity ever save the world, or does it only reveal how deep the world's suffering truly is? Mist hangs over the fields where they slept, and the roads where they marched are silent. But every prayer, every hope, every sandal left in the dust remains a testament to a faith that aspired to heaven, and a world that could not bear its innocent weight. The story of the Children's Crusade ends not in Jerusalem, but everywhere innocence wanders, knowing itself small yet burning to heal the world. And that story, tragic and luminous, will never fade as long as faith remains a song in the wind, haunting, hopeful, and everlasting.